Oh man, Alex, how are we doing, buddy? How's it going?
Oh, I've had better days.
Oh, why is that?
I think I told you offline why.
You know that it's a good day when I'm wearing the Ben Rice Worcester Bravehearts hat. If I could speak English, that'd be awesome too.
Find your words, and then we'll.
Sir, sir, I don't need to find words. I have pictures,
Do
and
you?
pictures are worth 1,000 words.
How are you?
You know, I'm living. You know, it's Thursday. We made it here somehow, some way to another Thursday. Somehow, some way to another Thursday. That was actually like poetic or something. I've had a good
Yeah,
day. You can tell that I sat at work and I just was spinning my wheels all day.
I was worried because the number of memes that you dropped in the chat were a bit low today.
Um, it's because I was doing this really cool thing called my job. Like I do it from time to time, and by from time to
I mean,
time I
you
mean
get paid to do
about
your job
40 to 45 hours a week.
during the summer.
Yeah, during the season it's more. It's significantly more.
Yeah,
I may have chugged half that beer during the intro, but we don't need to talk about that.
I need one actually, but I don't partake during the week, so it's fine.
So I have to ask you, sir, would you rather talk about the elephant in the room or the other elephant in the room first?
Get one more. We gotta open a zoo, right?
Well, hopefully the two elephants will, you know, be friendly
Coexist.
and create baby elephants. And in this case, the baby elephants are good content. And that the other elephants are the Rockies and Aaron Rodgers.
Which one do you want to start with?
I'm good with either because I will refute your
No, no,
point. Completely
this is your
unresearched, I will refute your point.
your channel, your rules. So
Well, we know we know that you're such a big fan of the Aaron Rodgers thing, then I'll let that go first. Because I know you just can't wait to get your excitement out on it.
oh, I'm not thrilled at all. When I saw the news on when I saw it, I'm just no, no. This is like the worst day. I think it's going to be a long summer. It's going to be an even longer season. I wish we re-signed Fields, honestly. Just man's washed up. Man is washed up. But the Steelers like washed up players, so it's fine. You know.
So I have to ask, what's the difference between him and you guys having Russell Wilson for a couple years, like you have?
Um, I mean Russell Wilson didn't go on an ayahuasca power quest, so there's that.
I didn't ask between the two people. I meant like for the Steelers. Isn't the point of signing a washed up
No, I think Russell Wilson is
quarterback
just
is
a
good
better
for a
quarterback at
quarterback
the
room?
moment. No, I think Russell Wilson was a better quarterback in the moment and still is now. Um, Aaron Rodgers has ruptured Achilles in a subpar year with the Jets, and now he's with another team. So
So
you
I'm,
can take your pick on.
you know, I'll say it. He's going to be your starting quarterback by week 4.
No, Will Howard's going to be starting by the bye week, and I will
By
stay on that mountain because that's where been living. So
like I said, by week 4, Aaron Rodgers will be your full-time starting quarterback, and then you're gonna still somehow have over a 500 season because Mike Tomlin just doesn't have an under 500 season, despite the fact he should. I famously predicted a 6-win season last year for the Steelers.
because the defense is what's going to get us there. The offense just chooses when it shows up, and I think just putting a rookie in there is just going to let that ship go wherever it goes, and you just kind of have to ride that at some point.
No, that's totally fair. But like I said, I think Aaron Rodgers will be your starter. You're gonna have a above 500 season to make the playoffs, and Aaron Rodgers is gonna be the MVP of the Super Bowl. I'll say it right now.
You're just a Browns fan.
I am a Browns fan, and I also
on my downfall.
What?
You're wishing my no. This
no,
needs to get
no.
on there.
I'm wishing for. I'm wishing for a man to have a genuine second chance in the NFL, and a man to genuinely have a good season because he didn't have either of his 2 seasons with the Jets. Just weren't good, and I want him to have that weird veteran spurt year. And if it's with you in the Steelers, that's great. It'll suck because I'm a Browns fan because we have to play you twice. But genuinely, I will be happy if Aaron Rodgers has a good comeback year. And then, you know what? He'll have that year, and he can retire happy. And then he can be away from the NFL, and the Steelers can go pick up some dude from Alabama to play quarterback and then still somehow be good because the Steelers are stupid like that.
Since that rumor kind of like came around though, like the whole fan base has kind of been divided on what to do. Some are taking the Cleveland Browns fan in the room take of this is a Super Bowl run, and everyone else wish they kept Fields or Wilson, if not both of them.
I'm not gonna lie, I was shocked they didn't keep them both, but I think bringing Aaron Rodgers in, it's gonna change things up, and it usually, hopefully, again, if I'm management at the Steelers, hopefully it's in a positive direction.
I think since we did draft a rookie quarterback, we have a rookie quarterback coming in. I think it would be that veteran mentorship, but I think I don't know where the line's going to be drawn at.
Obviously, neither of us are in those locker rooms. Neither of us are making those decisions. But is there someone in the Steelers organization that says he's better he will be a better locker room guy than the current crop we have, and that's why we did it?
I think there's always somebody in there that will, but I think like part of it too is like Aaron Rodgers was kind of dead set on the Steelers for a while too, but everybody on both sides just kind of waiting on when he basically made the decision that he did today for 4 months. And I think there are a lot of people that are just kind of over it by the draft when we drafted Will Howard out of Ohio State. And then there were some people that were still waiting despite us bringing in 2 quarterbacks. So it was kind of like it's still going to be some kind of division, but I just feel like at the end of the day, it's just it kind of outweighed the whole DK Metcalf trade too. We brought him in, and then it kind of fell off because Rodgers is just he's been talking with Pat McAfee and just kind of having this shadow over the whole front office and a lot of the decision making. I'm not saying like some of the moves were correlated with that Rodgers mindset, but I feel like his shadow of like them bringing in a better quarterback was incumbent upon his decision to sign. So I felt they were kind of waiting longer than they should have been to kind of find where the block was and just kind of cut it right there.
No, that's fair, and I think parts of it are going to be just they made a business decision. Like at the end of the day, the NFL is a business. The people they bring in is a business decision, and you always hope it pans out. I say that as an opposing fan. As you know, amongst our friends. I was famously against Deshaun Watson coming into Cleveland. I was right, by the way. Give me that first and foremost. I was right about that take. Everyone said that was a terrible take by me because Deshaun Watson was good at football. I don't care. I didn't like his off-field antics. I didn't think he was good enough to be the Browns starter, especially after not playing for 2 years. So I think the skeptic in me is like, ooh, is this just kind of going to be the Steelers version of it with just a lot less controversy? There's always some controversy with the big veterans, unfortunately, it feels like. But
you guys got your own situation going on over there.
Oh, the Cleveland Browns are going to have a different starting quarterback all 16 weeks. That's also my prediction, by the way. All 17 of the games, rather. We're gonna have a different,
Will they,
or all 16 games,
will
they'll have a different starting quarterback. We're gonna add 16 new starting quarterbacks to that jersey.
I'd love to see that over a full season of Aaron Rodgers, to be totally honest with you.
If you want to be completely honest, before the NFL draft, I did bet on the Browns to go 16-0. Because
I'm gonna save that take for our Browns content that we're gonna make over the summer at some point.
I'm just saying, long before the draft, I bet on it like the day after the Super Bowl, with the intent that I'm gonna lose my 50 cents. Like, I know I'm gonna lose the money because teams don't go 16-0 in the NFL.
No.
When they do, it's fantastic. That being said,
the NFL now,
it would be the perfect other side of the coin to the fact that Cleveland was one of the two to do an 0-16 season. Obviously, we know the Lions had their 0-16 season a few years prior to the Browns one.
Mm.
How hilarious would it be actually, if they do it this year, it'll still be in a 10-year window. In a 10-year window to be an 0-16 team and a 16-0 team. That'd be awesome. Well, it would be 17-0 this year, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Play 17-0, but so I guess I bet on them to go 17-0, which again, not going to happen. But it'd be funny if they were the first 17-0 team. Regular season, I know the Patriots did it when they made that run in 2009 to the Super Bowl just to get swatted down by the Giants. Which it's funny that the Giants were the giant killer in that case.
Yeah. But I've been kind of sitting with this thought all day, and this kind of goes to another Steeler hallmark that they're just somehow good at. I'm so against this Aaron Rodgers move that I prefer they would have kept George Pickens and paid him over 1 year of Aaron Rodgers.
Here's the thing. We'll see how you feel in February, which I think it'll be. I'm hopeful that my take's correct, and then you come around to it, because that'd be funny.
It would be, but it's just like the Steelers are going to be the Steelers, and the Steelers usually run out of gas by week 12, so it's fine.
So why not have a quarterback that's going to start? That's only going to play for 4 weeks, and then you basically start your season late because you have the rookie then. I think it's genius.
I mean, he'll probably start after the bye week because we got an early bye this year anyway.
But, honestly,
we have the early bye every year, though.
I think it's also hard because I think the AFC North is still one of the toughest divisions in football. I think
it is it still is, honestly. If you really think about it.
And it's funny because, like, again, I'm a Browns fan, so people clown on us because the Browns are bad, and clown on Browns fans because we're fans of the Browns who are historically bad. But the Ravens have been a juggernaut forever. The Steelers are very good usually, and then the Bengals as of late have been fantastic, like the last 5, 6, 7 years. When we were kids, the Bengals were not that good, but they've really come up themselves. So I still think being the worst of that division, you're a better team than some of the other divisions' second best team. You may not be better than the best teams, but you're better than their second best team in most divisions.
It's kind of one of those things we put. If you were to map the divisions, that's kind of where the Browns could be a 6-win team and not a 3-win team. You know what I mean? It's just like that different disparity of relocation.
When you have to play the Bengals, the Steelers, the Ravens, six of your games a year, that if you're winning 10 games that season, that's impressive because that means you essentially you're perfect out of division essentially, because that division is just that division.
Yeah.
And I mean, when we were kids, that's kind of how the AFC East was too. The Jets were really good. The Jets were really good when we were kids. The Dolphins were really good when we were kids. The Patriots were, I guess, they were pretty good. They won a couple Super Bowls or something.
They're okay.
They were fine. They were passable. But
No, they did okay for circumstances.
that's the thing. I think when you get into that window where you have a juggernaut or two in your division, even being the worst team in your division doesn't necessarily mean you're as bad as your record says you are. And I have this belief in baseball. I have this belief for every sport. It's not necessarily you're bad. It's you're not good enough against the top talent. Look at the NL West, for example. You have the Diamondbacks, who have gotten hot out of nowhere for a couple years now. You have the Dodgers, who spend money like it's going out of style, and I say that as a Yankees fan. You have the Rockies, who are laughably bad right now. You have the Padres, who exist, and you have
Yeah, you also.
who's the last team in that division?
I just said the Giants, and they exist.
Oh, the Giants,
So-
and they also exist. But like, so this is kind of where my take on the Rockies starts is using that divisional thing. And again, I know the MLB has gone away from playing 99% of your games against your division with the change of schedule. But I've seen a take going around the internet, I assume you have as well, about beer league teams beating the Rockies. What's your opinion on that?
I think if you put together an elite beer league team, there'd be a game played. You know what I mean? At least a good game played. I think it's not impossible either. You know what I mean? Like it's not.
Oh, I'm not
It's
saying
not crazy to think that, but I think if you build like the penultimate beer league team, I think you can do it.
so. I think your average beer league team, like the level of beer league people are probably actually talking about. You know, you had guys that played D3, D2 college level.
Are you thinking like
maybe a few D1s.
average Joes?
I'm not
Are you
thinking
thinking like average Joes for dodgeball,
No, I'm
or
not.
are we thinking a little bit more fleshed out?
So I'm saying everyone played college baseball. They played, and you have a mix of D1, D2, D3. Probably a little heavier on the 2 and 3, just because.
Yeah.
You know, guys that could have gone and played some level of minor league baseball, and then decided not to for whatever reason, right? I think a team of those guys, same thing. You'd have yourself a game. But again, the MLB has anti-tanking rules, so the Rockies aren't doing it just to tank. They're not tanking to tank. Like, at the end of the day. There's something wrong in their organization. But I did the math before we went live here today. And their run differential going into today was negative 181 on 62 games. Which means on average they're losing by 3 runs. Now on paper, that's bad. That's really bad. But remember, they play in Denver. So half their games are just these high-scoring slugfests. You know?
Yeah.
So, and I haven't looked up who they've played this year or anything like that, but let's see. So, they started at the Rays. They won one of the 3. They got swept at the Phillies. But they lost one of those games by 5, one of those games by 4. Then they lost to Oakland on the 6th of April. They lost 12-5 in Colorado. They lost against the Brewers on April 9th, 17-2 in Colorado. But outside of those 2 games, everyone they lost to Detroit 11-1 and 10-2, and then the Padres 9-13, and then 21-0. It's outside of a few of those games that have been absolute wall-ups. Like they lost 13-1 to the Yankees on the 24th. There have been a lot of games where they're losing like that, and then there's a lot of games where They haven't won any games huge, it looks like. It looks like all their wins are 1-2 run games. Except for this Athletics game. That was their second win of the season where they won 12-5. But
it's kind of like that makes a lot of sense though.
They're two, for the most part, like 2-3 run games, kind of how that run differential is, with a couple really big slaughterings like the Padres one I mentioned where they lost 21-0. That was a little bad.
That's a little bit,
but I think that skews the run differential, right? And then the Yankees 13-1.
Yeah,
I think
every team in the league has those outliers too, so it's not just like indicative to the Rockies. It's more so like.
I bet if I went through this and I took like a running 10-game average of run differential, their run differential would be obviously be a lot better because you'd be able to assume away a lot of the games where they've gotten slaughtered.
Yeah.
4, 5, 6, 7. By the way, they are 3-7 in the last 10, and the biggest margin.
They won their first series, bro.
Yeah. And by the way, they swept their first series along the way. They didn't just win their first series; they swept their first series, which is kind of funny. The biggest in their last 10 games. Can you guess what the biggest margin of runs is? I realize you can probably see it because I'm sharing my screen with you, but
I mean, I feel like it's gonna be like no more than 4, maybe 5.
It's a little high. It's 6. It's they lost 2-8 on May 31st at the Mets.
Yeah, that is kind of.
But
it's not too bad though.
Their biggest margin of victory is a 2-run, and then their other 2 wins are 1 runs. So again, and then they had that 14-12 game, which only brings their run differential up 2. They're winning when they're winning by like 1 or 2 runs, and when they're losing by like 3, 4, 5. In a lot of cases, it looks like. Which again, why you have a negative run differential. Their team average is 216, which isn't great.
What's the Mendoza too? The Mendoza's like 200, I think.
Yeah, it is. They're batting 195 on the road, so part of the problem is they're just not playing good on the road.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a wild stat. They're batting 199 in losses. They're batting 285 in wins. That's not bad.
Correlates a little bit. That correlates, but
I mean, obviously you're gonna bat better. You should be batting better in wins. It'd be pretty funny if they were batting better in losses. But batting almost 300 in games they're winning, like. I realize that they've only played 4 games in June. But it's the first month. Their batting average has gotten better every month. They batted 211 in March over 4 games. They batted 211 in April over 26 games. They batted 221 in May over 28 games. And they're currently batting 224 in June. This is a really weird thing to say, but if they keep batting the way they're batting and the trend continues, did they start off historically bad? Yes. How is the MLB? I want to see how far they are out of like the wild card right now.
Historically out of the wild card.
They're 22.
Oh, they're 22 and a half out.
Yeah. They're 22 and a half out on the wild card, which is the funniest part. They're 25 and a half out of their division. Again, super early in the season.
Are you saying you don't let the Rockies get hot? Is that what you're trying to say? I was going to say,
who's to say if they get hot, they don't make the playoffs? And then it's anyone's game once the playoffs start. If you make the postseason, you have a chance to win the trophy. That's just how sports work.
Could also just like I'm looking at their pitching stats too, and these
Again, remember,
Some of it,
they
again,
play
some of
in
it's the ballpark, right?
they play in
Right,
Denver.
obviously. All right, I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna go through their rotation because you'll see this here. All right, so Kyle Freeland, 1-8, 5.19, 13 starts. Antonio Senzatella, 1-10, 7.14 ERA. Herman Marquez, 2-7, 6.98. Chase Dolander, 2-5, 6.26.
Again,
Ryan Feltner, 0-2, 4.75. And then Carson Palmquist is a 0-4 with an 8.5.
I'd be willing to bet they all pitched in at least one of the outlier games. And like, if you're the guy that started in that 21-0 Padres game, I don't know how many runs the manager allowed before he pulled your ass, but if you're the dude that started in that game, your ERA is already going to be fucked up.
I mean, actually,
So,
actually, you riff for a second. I'll actually find it, and I will cut you off on it. Actually, I will. I think.
But if my point is, if you're pitching those outlier games that we've been talking about, and you're getting shelled, that's not good. Like, it's actively not very good.
Started that game. Oh, it wasn't even anybody on that list.
It's no one in their current rotation that started that game.
No, they had a spot start. That was a spot start game, yeah.
Okay, that happens, unfortunately. But
What?
I'm just looking at like random stuff in their stats.
But in the 11-1 game is also a spot start. Looks like if they're like giving up big runs on their bullpen start days, like that's actually like
That's also
a very significant
What about
outlier.
who started on April 9th for them against Milwaukee? I bet this will tell me.
I got it right here. Antonio Senzatella. Okay, so there's one of their regular starters right there.
I'm trying to find the
But
games that are just like big.
I got yeah. So in that 17-2 game, Senzatella went 4 1/3, giving up 9 runs, 8 earned.
Okay, so that's super relevant. Those are the things that are super relevant. You have to look at. You can't look at like just raw ERA either.
His 5.14 ERA is, I think, the game ERA. So that only knocked his up or down a handful of points at most.
And like this Nationals one, on Dollander started. He pitched 4 innings, but he gave up 6 earned runs, so he had a 13.5 ERA for that one game. And we don't have to talk about Peralta, who came out of the pen, pitched 0.2 innings, and had a 40.5 ERA for the game. Oof.
It's fun.
Lucas Sims.
I think it's funny.
Lucas Sims had a 108 ERA that game.
Cincinnati legend, by the way.
I like Lucas Sims. I really like Lucas Sims.
One of their position players has a lower ERA than their whole starting rotation. It's actually hilarious.
I'm looking at just the game ERA for the 21-0 game.
Right, so that shouldn't outline like that pitcher's ERA a whole bunch. It'll knock it up a little bit, but it's not going to like make it a complete.
We're very early in the season now. We're not as early as we were, but like box score, that's what I want. So Balak started. He pitched 3.2. Can we talk about the fact that they had much better ERAs all throughout that game? It was the first 4 innings that they just played really bad baseball, and then Well, now I'm curious. Padres.
So we're about going into today. We are 38.2% of the way through the year.
Yeah, if you're less than a third of the way through the year, you still have plenty of time to right a ship.
I do have another baseball topic that we can run
Go
on
for
after
it.
this. But
I'm just looking.
no, if you got more, if you got more,
No,
like this is a
my point is I don't. I think counting the Rockies out this early, despite how bad they started, I think we talked about this. Or I mean, I've talked about it a lot just because of my job. But
I think you can context it out of when you work in another sport too, because this is a conversation you just have to recontext to, in your case, in the hockey or
yeah,
in our other case in football. But
how I like to remind people is we're a third. Let's use football, right? It's not super easy, right? But that's close enough to a third. So a third of an NFL season's about 5 1/3 games, right?
Mhm.
Or 5 and yeah, roughly.
about five just for yes,
Call it 6. We'll
five.
call it 6
Call it six
because
for-
it's two. It's actually like 2/3. 0.667. Um, if your team starts off 0-5, you're obviously like, well, we're not making the playoffs. Again, because of just how few games are in the NFL. But are you calling the season a wash at 0-5, where you're losing your 6th game, but you haven't lost it yet? You're somewhere in the third quarter, like middle of third quarter ish. No, you're not necessarily counting yourselves out yet. So,
So this is. I'm gonna talk about the stocks now. But where do you stand on the concept of teams withholding their top prospects, and in a case where they could make an impact?
explain. Give me some context so that I can form a full opinion.
So the Red Sox have the #1 prospect right now, and he cannot do anything else. He has nothing else to prove in Worcester right now. But they're not going to call him up.
What position does he play?
He is now fielder.
I have to ask, because again, you're a Red Sox fan. I'm not. You follow the Red Sox. I don't.
It is not Jacob deGrom, if you were wondering.
I know for a fact it's not Jacob deGrom. That is a joke. That runs back to when we worked with the Mina football team. The team was out in San Diego, right, or Arizona. It was that week-long trip where they were hit both markets.
San Diego and they had San Diego and Arizona back to back.
So they were out west, and everyone else in the front office went to a Woo Sox game on Friday night because we were like, let's do it like they're. It was the day they left too. We were like, let's do it like it's. Why not? There's only like 6 of us in the office. So we went to the baseball game that night. They were playing the Syracuse Mets. At the time, DeGrom was injured and on the Mets roster. And one of our friends, he who was on the trip, big Mets fan. And we were like, oh man, how funny it would be if we saw DeGrom pitch for the Syracuse Mets. So we waited for I don't know who the reliever was that came out of the bullpen. But a lanky right-hander came out of the bullpen, and we just took a picture of him from behind, and we were like, hey, bud, it's DeGrom. He's pitching for the Syracuse Mets. So now, permanently, by the way, he started for the St. Lucia Mets the same day. He was in Florida.
Yeah, I forgot he was doing his rehabs.
He was scheduled for a rehab start that day. He just rehab started in Florida, not in Worcester. Um, but so that was the running joke forever. So if you ever hear us reference the fact that he is a Worcester Red Sox legend, that's where the DeGrom jokes come from. A really bad joke amongst our friends that we decided to start
in the moment.
and never end.
Did they call us too? Like when we said it?
So they did, and actually our PR guy, who is not the one that we were trying to pull a fast one on, was hype about it because he thought it was legit. And I think that was the best part. We pulled a fast one on one of them, just not the one we were trying to pull the fast one on.
Yeah, I think that makes it great too. It's just like we can get. We kind of like go back and forth on. We're like the group chat that likes to throw out very random but niche player names. But kind of, I'm gonna steer it back. So Roman Anthony is the number one prospect.
So
in baseball,
the point that I was asking is, in your opinion, again, not knowing anything about the inner workings of the actual Boston Red Sox organization.
Trash, by the way.
In your opinion, is he better than all three outfielders and the two guys that are on the bench that are not playing daily?
Yeah, I think he is, but he's also 21, so I think they're trying to maintain his age.
So the reason I say that, and you can believe he's better, that's fine. That's not neither here nor there. I think the bigger reason they're keeping him in AAA, and again, I haven't looked at his numbers or anything, it's getting him to play every day because he's still young. So let him cook down in Worcester, down being relative for a level, because as we both know, Worcester is west of Boston. Let him cook in Worcester, just so that he can have the confidence, so when he goes and steps into a big league batter's box, when the Red Sox do call him up eventually, he has the confidence and he can still bat to the level they're expecting him to. He plays to the level that he's been playing at, because some of that misguided is not the right word, but some of that forced confidence, if you can force a confidence, that's elite, man. That's absolutely elite. Like,
I guess my kind of follow-up point is that the Royals called up their top prospect on Tuesday.
Uh-huh.
So it's kind of like, so when the Royals announced that call-up, everyone kind of put the pressure back in the Red Sox court of like, not the Royals called up Jack Caglione.
Yep, I did see that actually.
Yeah, so Caglione's up. That's kind of what a lot of media is kind of looking at the Sox and being like,
so
if Caglione's coming up this quick, why isn't Anthony right behind? You know?
So let me counter that real quick. First of all, two very different cities. By the way, the Royals are up 2-0 on the Cardinals in the top of the first. But Caglione plays first base, right? If I'm correct.
So they've had him.
He's pitched
by
as well.
Draft. So he's a first baseman. They've been having him in the outfield too. So they're kind of having him bounce around. But no, they've kept him as an outfielder. But I think he can play. I think he's like their backup first baseman. If I had to guess too.
I'm not gonna lie, and again, first baseman. He's playing first base. Everything's saying first base. Cool.
Yeah.
Now he's only had 9 at bats. But he's batting a 111 right now in the MLB. His minors this year, he was batting 322. Could
You got that there's always that transition curve too, so it's not just like
Yep.
oh that 322 is not going to carry it. It's
he also had 50 at bats to get that 322, where 9 for the 111. So we have to take some.
just
But
that's across the year. Okay.
But the point I'm trying to make, and I hope it's coming through clear, it's probably not, is that I think the biggest thing why the Red Sox aren't calling him up is because they don't want to rush him. Because he may be playing well, but they may feel he's not ready, and they don't want him to do exactly what Jack Caglianone's done right now, right?
I think the Royals situation in which their solution was bringing him up is a different situation. I think they just needed a bat presence, whereas the Red Sox just have a logjam.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to disagree. I think the Royals are also much more of a rebuilding team right now than the Red Sox are.
Yeah.
So you're going to have prospects that come up a little bit quicker.
So I think that's why Meyer came up first, is that he's a little bit older, but he's also Marcelo Meyer's got more question marks too. Like he hasn't played a full minor league year yet either, so it's kind of the trade-off there. But
because the Red Sox, I mean, they're sitting right around 500. Like,
so I think there's the group of Red Sox fans that think that Roman Anthony's going to be that spark that gets them into the 85, 87 last wild card spot window, but
I'm just saying
you could theoretically bring him up in August, and he could do that. So it's not like it's the be all end all.
Looking at how they've played as of late, don't let him play every day down in the MILB in AAA. Let him have a couple more games to kind of a little bit more of the season. Reassess after the All-Star break, because they're playing fine baseball. Get through this home and home series with the Yankees, which I guess it's technically it's at the Yankees, then it's home with Tampa, and then home with the Yankees. But get through that, and then look at maybe pulling him for that West Coast trip, maybe at the end of the month, or when they come back at the actual end of the month, and they have the Toronto into the Cincinnati before they go down to Washington. That's
I think if they. So I'm gonna kind of riff on something real quick. Is that the Red Sox have this logjam that was preventable, right? So the preventable logjam was trying to move one of these extra outfielders or two, and some people wanted him up on opening day. Some people, I think it's just the surface time manipulation up there at first, but now it's just kind of like maybe there's one part of his game where they're looking and whatever that checklist of things that he's got to do in Worcester isn't fully checked off yet. But the way he's hitting well, but it's like everything else is like, where do we figure out when to say enough is enough? He's going to come up and contribute. And at the same time, it's like, what's the corresponding move going to be if we bring him up? Like, who's getting voted off the island so that Romy could take the place?
No, and that makes sense, and I think that's the sort of stuff you have to really look at and be like, you have to look at and say, is this the play?
And that play could also be, what does their trade deadline look like too? That they call them up as a result of what they do with the deadline. Which I think is the more likely option. So that can be end of July from the look of it.
That's exactly the point I'm trying to make. Like, are they in a position right now, where it's actually a tactical disadvantage to bring him up? And I could argue yes. They're playing okay baseball right now. I think the AL East is one of those divisions that's just it's tough. It's a tough division. Right now, they're in 4th place in the division, 9 games behind the Yanks. But they're 17-16 at home, 13-18 on the road. They're on a 1-game win streak. They're 3-7 in the last 10, which isn't too good, but they're 30-34. In the AL Central, they would be if they were slotted in, they'd be the 5th team. In the AL West, they would be in 3rd. Just going by pure wins numbers. 30 and 34. AL East, they'd be 3rd. NL Central, they'd be tied for 4th. And the NL West, they would be 5th. So that's the other thing you have to kind of look at. How are they falling amongst the rest of the league? They're playing fine baseball. And that's the thing. And we'll see how they do with the Yankees here this weekend, and that sort of stuff. Because if we go back to standings, if I can find the standings, there it is. Right now, the AL wild card, they're 4 games out of the AL wild card. Like,
they can still hang, but just not.
I'm thinking you don't want to rush a solid prospect.
No.
Don't rush your solid prospects, because if you rush your solid prospects,
Bad things happen.
You can ruin careers.
Is that what the Pirates are doing with? Is that what the Pirates are actively doing right now?
I don't know, but I think there's so much weight on Paul Skeens, for example. I think that's where you're going with this.
No, but I don't think he's
playing great
such an
baseball.
outlier on. Yeah,
but
just like.
But how much is that pressure causing him to go too hard, too fast, and is that going to cause problems down the road?
I think he's like, when you listen to him speak too, he's good at hiding. I mean, kind of like expressing his anger. If there is anger, like you wouldn't know it yet because he's mad quiet. If you like, kind of look at how he acts a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also just like, and you can kind of count it. This is what I want to throw into the Rockies point, but we can do it here too. And I think the Pirates, like the Rockies, aren't putting money back into the product at the rate that other teams do.
Oh, and that's a big problem. I'm not gonna lie.
So yeah, so when they have a guy like Skeens, it's like they're gonna have to pay him or ship him out to a team that will pay him.
You mean the New York Yankees?
Really, anybody though.
Paul Skeens, New York Yankee in 3 years. I'm calling it right now.
Probably a Dodger, but
Nope, I think he'll be a Yankee.
Fuck the trend, yeah, honestly.
So, here's why. I think you're going to see Paul Skeens wind up on the Yankees. Because a lot of the guys that have gone to the Dodgers started their career in the AL. And a lot of guys that wind up on the Yankees start their career in the NL. So I think that's where you're going to get that. That's why I would actually say Yankees over Dodgers. That being said, did you see the other day, I saw something about Trevor Bauer, speaking of the Dodgers.
His case?
How he is now countersuing and actually starting to make headway on said countersuit.
Is he suing
the girl that he went to court with?
Yeah.
Yep, for the defamation stuff. And how much, if I mean, I'm sorry. He was ordered payment of what, $300K or something.
Yeah.
I saw it the other day. I saw it via Twitter.
I saw what his agent put out, but I didn't look into it all too much.
I didn't look into it too much. I just saw it while I was scrolling Twitter. Yeah, this is what I saw yesterday. It's an ABC 7, which I assume is the LA.
Yeah, LA.
Yep. Former Dodgers pitcher Trevor Bauer has been awarded nearly $310,000 in a default judgment against the San Diego woman who accused him of sexual assault for breaching the terms of an agreement they reached in a 2023 to settle their dueling lawsuits. Bauer's Superior Court complaint contended that Lindsay Hill went afoul of their settlement and agreed by falsely stating 22 times, mostly on the internet, she received money from Bauer as part of the accord. On Monday, the judge ordered Hill to pay $309,830. His suit brought last October 10th. Bauer contended that Hill was liable for $10,000 for each breach of the settlement agreement. Former Cy Young Award winner also sought an attorney's fee, costs, and prejudgment interest. But he gets a lot of money, and he deserves a lot of money. Because I think at this point, we can agree, in general, whether or not he did that sort of stuff is, we're going to say it's off the table at this point. He was blacklisted from baseball because baseball was trying to protect baseball. And I'm not against the MLB trying to protect the MLB. That's fine. I'm very okay with that. But
that's when the commissioner is very case by case, because he could have made an example out of the Astros but didn't.
Yeah.
But now he's making an example out of Bauer because I feel like he was making up for something.
I think there was a lot of social pressure because of what the charges against Bauer were brought. Again.
Yeah.
The only people that know if it actually happened are Trevor Bauer and Lindsay Hill. At the end of the day.
Yeah.
The court of public opinion at this point, based on the court documents, says, hey, he didn't do it, it was false. Great. Using that premise, and I think that's the premise the MLB commissioner would have to use, I wouldn't be surprised if teams at this point start actually sending him offers, and he might get kind of unblackballed from baseball. I think he's a little outspoken in a way that's not great for baseball.
But it's kind of, I think it's
great because we're getting to see it, we get to see the side of baseball that people don't get to see. But on the other hand, it's hard for baseball because baseball has to try to protect baseball.
I do feel like on the part of I thought his COVID, when he was vlogging all the time during the COVID year.
That was fantastic content, by the way.
Yeah, it's other athletes are.
But again, I think part of the problem is it's now taking part of that secret society that is the MLB and making it very public. If you notice, a lot of the players that talk about it, they talk about it after they've left.
Yeah.
What's his face? I watch him on YouTube too all the time now.
Erickson?
No, not him.
I need some hints here, bud, so I can help you.
He was a relief pitcher. Played for the Twins. Played for the Athletics. Trevor May.
There you go. Okay. Well, I just got a Discord notification from him, and I thought it was kind of funny that I didn't just shout that name out when that name was.
Trevor May was the guy that I was thinking of. He's one that, again, is talking about baseball, but after he left, talking about the secret society that is the MLB. After he left. That's
even though Dallas Braden waited till he left too. All these guys that go into media, they always have to wait till they're.
And I think
They're always
if you
ready.
want me to be completely honest, I think that is the biggest reason, the biggest difference between baseball, like these athletes that are doing this stuff, when they're the top tier athlete, they play in the 3-letter leagues. They're waiting until they've left so that their people don't necessarily conflate what I'm saying with what the MLB thinks or the NFL or NHL or whatever league, you know? I think it's a league PR thing, and I think that's the biggest reason guys like Bauer are not in right now.
Yeah, it's like even with other leagues, like I get like when you have a player bringing a camera behind like so you get
It's one thing if you're doing it for your social media, like
I get it's like a
our
mitigation of
social media
risk kind
team
of.
will give a camera or something to players and say, "Hey, go buck wild for like on this game day," or they'll be walking around taking shots of like things and taking video clips of stuff. And
I was watching
the social media team did it, and the arena team too. Like very normal social media stuff, right? Kind of get some of the personality.
I know.
They did
I
it a
know
little
I
bit
didn't
while I
do
was
that.
there, but you may not have personally
But,
done it, but it was done while we were
no.
there. Was my point.
No, but I was watching today. The league had they posted a video where Green Bay's quarterback basically did that, kind of taken behind like a game week. So it was like, oh, here's our Tuesday lift. Skipped practice. Didn't do practice, but like kind of here's some community stuff we did after our full day of team activity. Here's what Thursday looks like. Here, I'm assuming they went into. Oh yeah, and then they went into like yeah, they went to hey, we're at the field for the game, stuff like that. So it's like, and obviously like in a minor league, especially with like the IFL, where like there's not much there's not much you need to really keep under wraps, I guess, in terms of like what a game day looks like. Whereas like as you go up the chain, you kind of when there's more, the bigger the venue, the bigger there's more there's more camera and media centric policies, obviously. Or like you can't have cameras unless they're team cameras in clubhouses, but there are a lot of media times in the locker rooms and stuff like that. So, and I get why. Like, I also think it's just kind of how Bauer's personality is too. Like, I actually think that the way that he explains baseball is very interesting.
I love his content for that reason because the way he explains it is very good.
But when you have, he was just a lot like also. I don't know. A lot of players go into the podcast side while they're still playing. Like the Kelsey brothers do that.
Yeah.
Or the Kelsey brothers do it while Travis is still in season now. But,
Yeah, they do.
But I think I understand why the leagues are so tight on kind of the vlogging side of content creation with active players and stuff like that. But I think the teams themselves and the media teams within the front offices know like if we give our guys a camera, we're gonna have 2 hours worth of clips we got to cut through anyway, so we know what not to put in there.
Exactly. Being able to take control of the situation from on your social media side is what it's all about.
Yeah. I think what makes it interesting is like Bauer did it in Mexico, doing it again. I think like watching his Japan. What was it? 23. It had to be 23 in Japan. It was cool because like I've always wanted to go little game over there just to experience how it is in a different place. But even in Mexico, you get to see how those leagues, how his routine doesn't change, but even in a different setting, like how he adapted to living in Japan as an American, right? And all this other stuff that, you know, you don't get to expose your audience to because the North American leagues are so much stricter on, players sharing. I don't want to call it sharing sensitive information, but kind of like
Sharing pertinent
the process.
information, I think, is kind of what you're saying. Like, what is the information we can hold to our chest, like confidential to us as a team, that we're not getting to review? And I think that's kind of the biggest mark on Bauer at this point. Out of everything else, I think that's the biggest mark on Bauer.
I also do think it's like, what's the MLB statute of limitations for these things? Like, if Bauer's just blacklisted, like, if we're kind of going back to Pete Rose and the 1919 White Sox, how it'd be dead for the MLB to start celebrating him again. Like, where's the cutoff for a player that had his issues resolved, but is just trying to sign league? He's been like tweeting out to league minimum. Just let me play in the States again. I'll prove to you like I can still pitch it what I did before I got blackballed. Like,
I think if he comes back, and I'm gonna say if, not when, I think you're gonna see a lot of content come through from the MLB that you wouldn't have necessarily seen before. Number one. Number two, the other thing I want to say, for those of us that play MLB The Show, there's going to be a ton of his content. It comes through just because I think he has played in enough different places, right? He was in Cincinnati. He was in Cleveland. He was in L.A.
Arizona for a quick second.
Arizona. He's played enough different places that you could get him content-wise, like for games like MLB The Show, they like the journeyman guys that have played a couple different places for content, because they'll give you a card of the team that you may not have been on for the longest time, but you existed on, you know? Because I forgot Johnny Cueto was a Red. I forgot Scott Rowland was a Red. Jim Edmonds. All guys I forgot played in Cincinnati, but they did, so it's free content for MLB The Show. It's free content for like having programs of like, you forgot they played here, which, by the way, MLB The Show should really do a series of, I bet you forgot they played here. And it's just guys that played in like their weirdest stops.
I think
their absolute weirdest stops.
Well, like Oakland A, Nomar type thing.
Yep, I was gonna say Oakland A, Nomar, Washington Nationals, Alfonso Soriano. Because I always forget that he was a National.
New York Yankee. Chase it. Eric Chavez, maybe.
Yep, New York Yankee, Eric Chavez, Miguel Tejada. All right, Alex, for next week, I want you to make... This is what we'll do for next week. I think that's where we'll end it. I want your starting 9 of guys that played in obscure... Like, guys when they played in a weird place. Obviously, use Baseball Reference, whatever. It's fine. So it's pitcher... starting 10, because pitcher and a DH. The DH is anyone else, just to get an extra guy.
Sir, before you dive into the rules here, are we doing... So we're doing starting lineup with the DH. Are we doing 3 starters, reliever, or just one pitcher altogether?
You only have to do one starter, one reliever.
Okay.
And
then
realistically, just 2
off
pitchers.
of that, could we do a Red Sox Yankee edition of this that we can put out before the next Red Sox Yankee series? So we can have a week. So we'll have the pod next week.
So the next Red Sox Yankee series starts tomorrow.
No, so no. So next pod we're gonna do it. So if we were to do
Yeah.
Red Sox Yankee on top of that, we can
Obviously,
get
I
it
will
out
cover.
for the subsequent one.
Actually, you get the Yankees, I get the Red Sox,
Ooh,
because
I
that
think
that way we can take some of our bias away. You know.
because and this is all time too, right? So this is we can go
Yeah, they have to rule
time machine, right?
much like Immaculate Grid. 1 game regular season or playoffs is the threshold.
All right,
Cook something good.
all right.
So your all-time list, and then you'll do the Yankees. I'll do the Red Sox. Just because I
Throw
think
it in
it'll be.
the
Oh,
throw it on the Google Doc that we
I will,
have
and
open,
I'll
and then
type
we
up
can.
the rules. I'll make a Google sheet for it too, so we can fill them out. That way we can see it. That way we can both see it, so we won't like if I'll use an example. When I use Cincinnati Reds Scott Hatteberg, you won't use Cincinnati Reds Scott Hatteberg.
But could we use like Yankee and Red Sox Johnny Damon should that arise, or is it once the player's off the board?
So for the all-time one, like just yours and mine, the nines, we can't repeat names.
Okay.
I'm going to use an example that
I feel like
that's not great because I don't think he played for the Yankees, but like
I use Tom Gordon all the time for Red Sox Yankees sometimes.
yeah, that's fine. You can use like but it's more of I forgot he played there. So like not necessarily obscure players, guys that obscurely played places. So like Johnny Damon with the Rays is a great example of what I'm looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily. I'm not looking for friggin'.
You're not looking for like common knowledge. Like,
I'm looking
we're escaping common
for
knowledge.
guys that you forgot played a place. So more bigger names. So I'm looking for the more bigger names, smaller stints. A great example: Wade Boggs. Obviously, he played for the Red Sox. Obviously, he played for the Yankees. Obviously, he played for the Rays. I don't know if he had a fourth stop, but if he had a fourth stop, he'd be a perfect example of that fourth stop. Also, using Wade Boggs as an example, he played first and third base at some point in his career. So he didn't have, as long as he played that position in his career regularly, he can slot.
You can move him around the.
So like
you can move him around the diamond.
Yeah, so for outfielders like Johnny Damon, just because he played center field for most of his career, he was kind of a left fielder and kind of a right fielder from time to time. You could slot him there, even if, let's say, Rays Johnny Damon only played center field. You know?
Get it, though. So.
Yeah, so it'll be 8 fielders, 1 DH. 8 fielders, 1 DH, 3 pitchers. Again, not necessarily obscure players, but obscure stops is what we're looking for. Then you have an all-time Yankees obscure stops edition. I do Sox as well. So you'll have 2 teams. And obviously, let's say, again, Johnny Damon. He's a great example. Let's say you have him in Kansas City or the Rays or the Tigers as like his obscure stop, because I really don't think the Yankees or the Red Sox are an obscure stop for him. You know?
Yeah.
So, I would say you can't put him on your Yankees team, and I couldn't put him on my Red Sox team. Edgar Renteria, yeah, I probably could put on my Red Sox team, because he had a short enough stint that you may not remember him there. I did pull out of a pack like a month ago an Edgar Renteria Red Sox heavy lumber card, actually, because I bought some 2004 Topps packs. That's the only reason that name was on the top of my head, because like he's an obscure. He kind of falls into the obscure player category. Jason Bay with the Red Sox, kind of an obscure stop.
Mariners, Jason Bay.
Better obscure stop. See, this is why I wanted to leave this in, so we could kind of explain examples.
Yeah, and then we can. I mean, for the YouTube, I'll edit this out, but for
Yeah,
everything else, we can.
I mean, keep some of it like where we really have the flow of what our examples are, because we can just steal that for our own content down the road. But I will start a Google Doc and I will share it with you. I'll have 2 tabs for you and 2 tabs for me, and it'll be listed out 1B, 2B, 3B. It'll be in position order, and then your two bullpen arms, which again, pitchers are just pitchers. As far as I'm concerned, the pitchers can be starters or relievers. So Rich Gossage with the Cubs,
Got you.
for example. Which, don't take that one because that's all me. I have dibs on that one.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
All right.
Anything else you want to add, sir?
No, that was it. I think we'll be back next week, and we'll get active on the medias of social again.
I think we should try to have the teams done early, so that we can try to make a graphic out of it.
Yeah.
I've gotten pretty decent at photo editing, so, and by pretty decent I mean, so I can try to make little graphics for it too, so that we can have them for next week.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else, sir? Last
sir.
bit, I get to go to an arena football game on Saturday.
Yeah.
I'll be in Fishers, so that'll be fun.
Do a Fisher's Freight review. Is that what we're doing?
Oh yeah, I've been there for a Fuel hockey game, so I'm interested to get there for a Freight game now.
I do like their turf and the footage I've seen. So
I will send pictures. Don't worry, I have to take pictures for work anyway. So, because
you're scouting.
I was talking about how like I found the venue very odd when I went to the Fuel game in January, and everyone was like, "What do you mean?" So I'm going to try to take some pictures, and I think with an arena football game, I'm more apt to be up and around and moving around, so I can take some content
There you go.
for work, like so people can see the venue, because it's very convenient when we can talk about other venues.
It's a new building, right?
Yeah, they opened it this past December. So the old State Fairground where IUPUI men's basketball plays. Or played, is no longer the home of the Indy Fuel, and they're now at that the Fisher Event Center with the Fisher's Freight. So, it's a nice little drive. Parking's like $10, which is fine. There's a Topgolf right down the street. Those are the only important things you need to know about that area of Fishers, Indiana. Alrighty. On that note, sir, have a good one.
You too.
Bye.